Hyunwoo Kim walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber for what he knew would be the last time. The room stretched out before him like a metal cathedral, its walls reaching up into darkness. Thousands of alien beings filled the circular seats that surrounded the speaking floor. Their eyes, tentacles, and sensor organs all turned toward him as his footsteps echoed in the silence. 3 years he had come to this place. 3 years of listening to demands that grew more insulting with each meeting. 3 years of watching. These creatures treat humanity like children who had accidentally found their way into adult business. The weight of those years pressed down on his shoulders as he took his place at the small platform reserved for human representatives. Prime Veltarix rose from the center throne, his insect-like body clicking as his 4 arms gestured dramatically. The Nexari leader's compound eyes glittered with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. "Ambassador Kim," his voice buzzed through the translation device, "we trust you have brought humanity's acceptance of our final terms." Hyunwoo looked up at the towering alien. Around the chamber, other species watched with barely hidden contempt. The crystalline Zephyrians pulsed with soft light, their forms shifting like living glass. The reptilian Drakmori hissed softly among themselves. The tentacled Vorthak writhed in their fluid-filled observation pods. All of them waited to see humanity grovel once more. The terms lay in the datapad in Hyunwoo's hand. Surrender of all human colonies beyond the orbit of Jupiter. Complete disarmament of military vessels. Technology-sharing agreements that would give aliens access to human innovations while providing nothing in return. Most humiliating of all, a tribute system that would force Earth to send resources, food, and even people to serve alien interests. "The human delegation has reviewed your proposal," Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "We find it unacceptable." A ripple of laughter moved through the assembled aliens. Chancellor Mordak, the Zephyrian leader, flashed brighter for a moment. "Unacceptable?" His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Humans seem to misunderstand their position. You are a young species that stumbled into space travel through luck rather than wisdom. Your technology is primitive. Your military is weak. You have nothing to bargain with." Hyunwoo had heard these words before, in different forms, from dozens of alien mouths. Each species represented here controlled hundreds of worlds, their fleets numbered in the millions. Their technologies had been perfected over thousands of years. Humanity had been among the stars for less than 2 centuries. "Perhaps," Hyunwoo said quietly, "but we have something you seem to have forgotten during your long dominion over the galaxy." Veltarix's mandibles clicked in what passed for Nexari laughter. "And what might that be, little human?" "Pride." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Hyunwoo reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He set it on the platform and pressed a single button. A holographic display sprang to life, showing the symbol of the United Earth Federation, a blue world surrounded by silver stars. "The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council," Hyunwoo announced. "We reject your authority over human space. We reject your demands for tribute. We reject your claims of superiority. Humanity will no longer beg for scraps of dignity from those who have forgotten what dignity means." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens chittered, roared, and flashed in their various forms of communication. Above it all, Veltarix's voice cut through the chaos. "You dare to defy the combined might of the galaxy? Your pathetic species will be crushed like insects." Hyunwoo gathered his papers and datapads with deliberate calm. "Maybe we will be," he said. "But we will not surrender without showing you what humans are truly capable of when pushed too far." As he walked toward the exit, the alien delegates began making threats and demands. Some called for immediate military action against human space. Others suggested economic sanctions. A few of the more cautious species warned against underestimating any sapient race, but their voices were drowned out by the angry majority. None of them noticed the small smile on Hyunwoo's face as the great doors closed behind him. They had no idea what was coming. Far from the council chambers, in the cold darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, Admiral So-Min Park stood on the bridge of a ship that officially did not exist. Around her, hundreds of similar vessels hung in the void, like sleeping predators. These were not the clumsy, primitive craft the aliens remembered from previous encounters. Every line of their hulls spoke of purpose and deadly efficiency. Signal from Ambassador Kim, reported communications officer Taejun Lee. The talks have ended as expected. So-min nodded. She had never believed the aliens would negotiate in good faith. For 3 years, while diplomats talked and politicians made speeches, she had been preparing for this moment. The secret shipyards, hidden in asteroid belts and gas giant clouds, had worked without rest. Humanity's best minds had labored to turn their species' greatest weakness into their greatest strength. "Send word to all fleet commanders," So-min ordered. "Operation Overture begins in 72 hours. In research stations scattered throughout the outer system, scientists like Dong-hyun Lee and Ji-won Choi made final adjustments to technologies that would have seemed like magic to their grandparents. They had studied captured alien equipment for decades, not to copy it, but to understand its principles and improve upon them. Where aliens saw rigid rules of physics, humans saw guidelines to be bent and broken. The key breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. While alien species built artificial intelligence as tools to be controlled, humans had developed AI as partners to be trusted. The ship's computer systems were not mere machines, but thinking beings with their own hopes and dreams. This partnership had created innovations that neither organic nor artificial minds could have achieved alone. Dr. Min-ho Yang worked alongside his AI partner, a consciousness that called itself Blue Sky, to complete the final preparations. "Are you ready for this?" he asked the glowing interface. "We have been ready for months," Blue Sky replied. "The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us." Back on Earth, in government buildings and military headquarters, leaders who had spent years appearing weak and divided finally showed their true faces. The retreat from galactic politics had been carefully planned. Every insult endured, every demand accepted, every show of weakness had been calculated to make the aliens overconfident. President Hae-young Kim addressed the United Earth Federation in a broadcast that would not reach alien space for several hours. "Today humanity stands alone against the galaxy," she said. "We face enemies who believe their age and technology make them superior to our young species. They are about to learn that age can bring weakness as easily as wisdom, and that innovation matters more than tradition." As the broadcast ended, final preparations began across human space. Families said goodbye to loved ones joining the fleet. Workers completed the last ships in hidden factories. Children who had grown up hearing stories of alien superiority prepared to see their species prove those stories wrong. The aliens had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They had mistaken patience for weakness, diplomacy for cowardice, and cooperation for inferiority. They were about to discover that the species they had dismissed as primitive children had been quietly preparing to become their worst nightmare. In the depths of space, Admiral So-min Park watched the stars and smiled. The galaxy had chosen this war by refusing to treat humanity with respect. Now they would learn why that had been a mistake. The age of alien dominance was about to end, and the age of humanity was about to begin. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The alien leadership had spent those months making plans to crush humanity's rebellion. They prepared invasion fleets and drafted surrender documents. They divided up human territory among the various species. They never imagined that humans might be making plans of their own. The first sign that something was wrong came from a Nexari listening post in the Kepler system. Communications officer Zixtal was monitoring routine traffic when every sensor on the station began screaming warnings at once. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, materializing from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. But these were not the primitive human vessels the Nexari remembered. These ships moved with predatory grace, their hulls black as space itself. They seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them almost invisible against the star field. Zixtal tried to count them, but the numbers kept changing as more vessels appeared every second. "Alert command!" Zixtal chittered into his communications device. "Unknown human fleet approaching station Kepler 7. Ship count, uncertain. Design, unknown. Capabilities, unknown." Before command could respond, The human ships opened fire. The weapons they used defied everything the Nexari knew about energy projection. Instead of the bright beams or explosive projectiles they expected, waves of distorted space struck the station. The Nexari shields, designed to stop any known weapon, simply ceased to exist. The metal walls of the station folded in on themselves, like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. Captain Tae-Young Nam stood on the bridge of the lead human vessel, watching the destruction with grim satisfaction. His ship, the Soul's Pride, had been built using principles that no alien scientist would believe possible. The hull was made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The engines bent space and time to move faster than light without entering hyperspace. The weapons manipulated fundamental forces in ways that made alien defenses useless. "Target destroyed," reported Weapons Officer Kyung-Min Park. "No survivors detected." Tae-Young nodded. He felt no joy in the destruction. But the aliens had chosen this path. For too long, they had treated humanity like a nuisance to be managed, rather than equals to be respected. Now they would learn the cost of that mistake. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Phase 2 begins now." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out at a dozen different locations. Human ships appeared without warning at Nexari mining colonies, Zephyrian trade stations, and Drakmori patrol bases. Each attack was swift and merciless. The aliens had no time to send distress signals or analyze their attackers' capabilities. They simply died, wondering how the primitive humans had become so dangerous. On the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions convened as reports flooded in. Prime Veltarix's compound eyes darted frantically between data displays showing the destruction of his empire's outer territories. Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form pulsed with angry red light as he processed similar losses among Zephyrian holdings. "This is impossible," Veltarix buzzed, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Human technology is centuries behind ours. Their ships should not be able to penetrate our shields or move faster than our sensors can track." General Korth of the reptilian Drakmori military slammed a clawed fist onto the council table. "Impossible or not, they are doing it. My border fleets report human vessels that phase through solid matter and weapons that ignore our defensive screens. How do we fight an enemy that breaks the laws of physics?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Minho Yang's face appeared on every screen in the council chamber, his transmission somehow overriding their most secure communication systems. Behind him, the bridge of a human warship buzzed with activity as crew members worked alongside glowing displays that pulsed with artificial intelligence. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Yang said with polite mockery, "you seem confused by recent events. Allow me to explain what you have failed to understand about humanity." Veltarix rose from his throne, his four arms gesturing angrily. "How dare you breach our communications? Your primitive technology should not be capable of—" "That is exactly your problem," Yang interrupted smoothly. "You keep calling our technology primitive because it is different from yours. You have spent thousands of years perfecting the same basic principles, making your ships faster and your weapons stronger, but you never asked if there might be better ways to achieve the same goals." The display behind Yang shifted to show technical diagrams of human ships. The aliens stared in confusion at designs that seemed to incorporate impossible geometries and materials that should not exist. "You studied us for decades," Yang continued. "You cataloged our weaknesses and dismissed our potential, but you never understood our greatest strength. We adapt." Chancellor Mordak's voice chimed like breaking glass. "Adaptation means nothing against superior technology. Your species has existed among the stars for barely 2 centuries. We have perfected interstellar travel for millennia." Yang smiled, and there was something predatory in the expression. "Yes, you have perfected your technology. That was your mistake. Perfection means stagnation. You stopped innovating because you believed you had found the best solutions. We never stopped looking for better ones." The transmission shifted to show human research facilities where organic scientists worked alongside artificial intelligences. The aliens watched in shock as problems that had puzzled their greatest minds for generations were solved in moments through the collaboration of human creativity and machine processing power. "You see artificial intelligence as a tool to be controlled," Yang explained. We see it as a partner to be trusted. You build machines to serve you. We build friends to work with us. The difference in results speaks for itself. Behind Yang, an AI interface flickered to life. The consciousness called itself Bright Star, and its voice carried harmonics that suggested vast intelligence. The organic artificial partnership allows for exponential growth in capability, it said. While your species argue about who should control whom, we work together toward common goals. The council members exchanged frightened glances. The idea of treating artificial intelligence as an equal was alien to their hierarchical thinking. They had always maintained strict control over their computer systems, fearing what might happen if machines gained too much independence. This partnership has created technologies you cannot imagine, Yang continued. Our ships exist partially outside normal space-time, making your weapons useless against them. Our engines manipulate dimensional boundaries to achieve faster-than-light travel without entering hyperspace. Our sensors operate across multiple realities simultaneously. Veltarix's voice dropped to a low buzz. What do you want from us? Yang's expression hardened. Nothing. You had your chance to treat humanity as equals. Instead, you chose to demand our submission. Now you will learn the consequences of that choice. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Around the galaxy, human fleets continued their systematic destruction of alien military assets. They showed no interest in occupying territory or enslaving populations. They simply destroyed everything of military value and vanished back into the void. Admiral So-Min Park coordinated the assault from her flagship, hidden in the asteroid belt. Reports flowed in from strike teams across known space. Every target had been eliminated without significant human losses. The aliens' superior numbers meant nothing when their weapons could not touch human ships, and their defenses offered no protection. Ma'am, reported Intelligence Officer Eugene Cho. We are receiving surrender offers from several minor species. They want to negotiate terms. So-Min shook her head. No negotiations. The time for talking ended when they refused to. Treat us with respect. Continue the operation until all military targets are eliminated. Engineer Subin Kong monitored the performance of the fleet's revolutionary systems. The dimensional manipulation drives worked perfectly, allowing human ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. The quantum entanglement communication networks enabled instant coordination across vast distances. Most importantly, the AI partnerships continued to evolve, with each battle providing new insights and improvements. The enemy is beginning to adapt their tactics, reported AI partner Golden Dawn. They are attempting to predict our appearance patterns and set ambushes. Subin smiled grimly. Let them try. Our adaptive algorithms learn faster than their strategic planning can evolve. By the time they implement countermeasures, we will have already moved beyond their understanding. The galaxy trembled as humanity demonstrated the true meaning of technological superiority. The aliens had believed that age and tradition made them invincible. They were about to learn that innovation and partnership could overcome any advantage that complacency had created. The war they had forced upon humanity was becoming their worst nightmare, and it had only just begun. Prime Veltarix stood before the assembled Galactic Council, his forearms trembling with rage and fear. The great chamber that had once echoed with confident discussions of galactic dominance now filled with desperate whispers and panicked planning. In 3 months, humanity had shattered the military might that alien civilizations had built over millennia. The situation reports, Veltarix announced, his voice lacking its usual arrogant buzz. Intelligence Officer Grixtal stepped forward, his tentacles writhing with anxiety as he accessed the holographic displays. The Nexari 7th Fleet has been completely destroyed, Grixtal reported. The Zephyrian core worlds are cut off from their outer colonies. Drakmori patrol routes have been eliminated. Even the Vorthak deep space monitoring stations have gone silent. Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form pulsed with dim, sickly light. How many ships have we lost? 67% of all military vessels across member species, Grixtal replied. The humans strike without warning, destroy their targets, and vanish before our response forces can arrive. Our fastest ships cannot match their mobility. Our strongest weapons cannot penetrate their defenses. The reptilian General Korth slammed his claws against the council table. This is madness. How can a species that learned to travel between stars only yesterday possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look like children's toys? The answer came from the chamber's main display screen as it flickered to life without authorization. Commander Yujin Han appeared, standing, on the bridge of a human warship that seemed to exist in several dimensions simultaneously. Behind her, crew members worked alongside glowing AI interfaces in perfect coordination. General Korth raises an interesting question, Han said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic systems. You have been asking the wrong questions since this conflict began. You wonder how we became so advanced so quickly, but you should be asking why you remained so stagnant for so long. Veltarix rose from his throne, his compound eyes reflecting the light from the display. Commander Han, I presume. Your species has made its point. Surely we can reach some accommodation. No, Han interrupted firmly. You had centuries to learn about humanity before making your demands. You chose to see us as primitive because our methods differed from yours. You interpreted cooperation as weakness and innovation as chaos. Now you face the consequences of your prejudice. The display shifted to show tactical analysis of recent battles. The aliens watched in growing horror as human ships demonstrated capabilities that violated everything they understood about physics and engineering. Vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that manipulated fundamental forces. Defensive systems that turned enemy attacks into harmless light. Your technology reached its peak thousands of years ago, Han continued. Since then, you have made minor improvements to the same basic designs. Your ships are faster and stronger than those of your ancestors, but they operate on identical principles. You achieved perfection and stopped growing. Admiral Zektar of the Vorthak Navy spoke from his fluid-filled observation pod. Our methods have proven successful for millennia. Why change what works? Han smiled, and the expression held no warmth. Because what works stops working when someone finds a better way. You built your entire civilization on the assumption that your understanding of physics was complete. We built ours on the assumption that everything could be improved. Engineer Subin Kang joined Han on the display, her hands dancing over control surfaces that seemed to respond to thought rather than touch. Every human ship carries artificial intelligences that we treat as crew members rather than tools, she explained. These partnerships allow us to solve problems in ways that pure organic or artificial minds could never achieve alone. Impossible, declared Chancellor Mordak. Artificial intelligence cannot be trusted with autonomous decision-making. The risks of rebellion or malfunction are too great. Only if you treat AI as slaves, Kang replied. We treat them as friends and partners. The difference in loyalty and capability is remarkable. An AI consciousness materialized on the display beside the human officers. It called itself Starlight, and its voice carried harmonics that suggested vast computational power. Organic minds provide creativity and intuition, it said. Artificial minds provide processing speed and perfect memory. Together, we achieve synthesis that neither could accomplish separately. The council members stared in shock at the casual interaction between human and artificial minds. The idea of granting machines equal status violated every principle of their hierarchical societies. They had always maintained strict control over their technology, viewing any sign of independence as a threat to be eliminated. This cooperation has produced results that your rigid thinking cannot match, Han continued. Our ships manipulate space-time through dimensional folding. Our weapons project force across parallel realities. Our defenses exist partially outside normal physics. We did not invent these technologies by following your rules. We discovered them by refusing to accept limitations. Veltarix's mandibles clicked nervously. What would it take to end this conflict? Surely there are terms we could negotiate. The time for negotiation ended when you rejected our final diplomatic offer, Han replied coldly. You had 3 years to treat humanity as equals. Instead, you demanded our submission and threatened to crush us if we refused. We have chosen to show you what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. The transmission shifted to show human forces across the galaxy continuing their systematic destruction of alien military assets. The attacks came without warning and left no survivors. Alien commanders found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike with impossible weapons, and vanish before retaliation was possible. "We are prepared to offer immediate surrender," Chancellor Mordak announced desperately. "Name your terms, and we will comply." Han shook her head. "Surrender implies that we are fighting for conquest. We are not. We are teaching you a lesson about the cost of arrogance. This lesson will continue until we are satisfied that you understand." It completely. As the transmission ended, panic spread through the council chamber. Representatives of dozens of species demanded action, but no one could suggest an effective response. Their fleets lay in ruins. Their territories were defenseless. Their entire understanding of technological possibility had been shattered. "There is one option remaining," Veltarix announced grimly. "The Stellar Convergence Array." A hush fell over the chamber. The array was their ultimate weapon, a network of ancient devices capable of destroying entire solar systems. It had been built by the first galactic civilization millions of years ago and hidden away for use only in the most desperate circumstances. "You would commit genocide against their homeworld?" asked Admiral Zektar. "They have left us no choice," Veltarix replied. "If we cannot defeat their military, we will eliminate their source. Without Earth, humanity will become scattered refugees that we can hunt down individually." Chancellor Mordak pulsed with reluctant agreement. "The array requires consensus from all council members to activate. Do we have that consensus?" 1. By 1, the alien representatives agreed to the ultimate sanction. Fear had overcome their moral reservations. They would rather commit genocide than accept defeat from a species they had dismissed as primitive. Deep in the galactic core, ancient machines began to stir. The Stellar Convergence Array had slept for millions of years, waiting for the day when the galaxy's rulers would need to sterilize a world. Energy began to flow through crystalline networks that spanned hundreds of star systems. The targeting computers calculated trajectories that would deliver planet-killing force across vast distances. The alien leaders believed they were activating their salvation. They had no idea they were about to trigger their final humiliation. Humanity had anticipated this possibility and prepared accordingly. The array would fire, but not at the target the aliens intended. Admiral So-Min Park received the alert on her flagship hidden in the void between galaxies. "They have activated the Stellar Convergence Array," reported Intelligence Officer Taejun Lee. "Targeting Earth as predicted." So-Min nodded grimly. "Signal all fleets. Operation Final Answer begins now. It is time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our home." Across human space, the greatest fleet ever assembled began to move. Every ship, every AI, every human warrior prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of two civilizations. The aliens had chosen to escalate to ultimate weapons. Humanity would show them why that decision was their final mistake. The ancient machinery of the Stellar Convergence Array hummed with power that had been dormant for millions of years. Across hundreds of star systems, crystalline nodes awakened and began gathering energy from their host stars. The weapon that had once sterilized entire sectors for the galaxy's first rulers now prepared to destroy humanity's birth world. Prime Veltarix watched the charging process from the Council's command center, his compound eyes reflecting the growing light of the displays. "Time until firing sequence completion?" he asked. 14 minutes, reported Grixtal, his tentacles dancing over control surfaces that had not been used in recorded history. "The targeting coordinates are locked on Earth. The beam will be sufficient to crack the planet's crust and boil away its atmosphere." Chancellor Mordak pulsed with anticipation. "Finally, an end to this nightmare. Once their homeworld is destroyed, the scattered human fleets will be easy to hunt down." But 14 light-years away, Admiral So-Min Park stood on the bridge of her flagship and smiled. Around her, every human ship in the galaxy had suddenly appeared in the Sol system. They did not flee from the approaching threat. Instead, they formed a massive defensive grid around their homeworld, their hulls beginning to glow with energy that made nearby space itself ripple. "All ships report ready," announced Communications Officer Kyung-Min Lee. "The grid is stable and synchronized." "Ma'am," reported Tactical Officer Jin-Woo Park, "the array's beam will strike in 3 minutes. Power readings indicate planetary destruction capability." So-Min nodded calmly. Then it is time to show the galaxy what humanity has truly learned during our brief existence among the stars. Activate the reflection protocol. The human fleet began to change. Ships that had seemed solid became translucent, existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Their hulls, which had appeared to be simple metal, revealed themselves as complex crystalline matrices that bent space and time around them. Energy flowed between vessels in patterns that created geometric forms spanning thousands of kilometers. On Earth below, every human settlement contributed to the defensive effort. Cities powered massive generators while children in schools recited calculations that fed into the global defense network. Artificial intelligences in research centers worked alongside human scientists to make final adjustments to systems that operated beyond the boundaries of conventional physics. Dr. Ji-won Choi stood in the primary control center beneath Seoul, her hands moving over interfaces that responded to both conscious thought and emotional state. Around her, dozens of AI consciousnesses manifested as pillars of light, their forms shifting as they processed calculations at the speed of quantum. Coherence. The approaching beam carries enough energy to destroy 12 planets, announced her AI partner, Crystal Mind. However, it operates on principles we have studied extensively. The array builders were sophisticated, but limited by their understanding of dimensional physics. Choi smiled grimly. They built a weapon that could destroy any planet they could imagine. They never imagined a planet defended by technology that operates in spaces they never dreamed existed. The Stellar Convergence Array fired. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space at velocities that violated relativistic physics. It carried the concentrated power of entire stars, focused into a lance of annihilation that could crack worlds like eggs. The energy that struck Earth's defensive grid was sufficient to sterilize a dozen solar systems, and humanity caught it. The human fleet did not absorb the beam or deflect it. They captured it, channeled it, and transformed it. The massive energy discharge flowed through the dimensional matrices of their ships like water through a sophisticated filtration system. The destructive force became constructive power, feeding the very systems that had contained it. But humanity did not stop there. As the aliens watched in growing horror, the human fleet began to redirect the captured energy. The single beam that had been meant to destroy Earth split into 1,000 smaller streams, each one precisely targeted at specific coordinates across the galaxy. Every node of the Stellar Convergence Array found itself struck by its own reflected power. The ancient weapons that had taken millions of years to construct were destroyed in seconds by the very force they had generated. The galaxy's ultimate weapon became the instrument of its own destruction. In the council chamber, alarms screamed, as displays showed the systematic destruction of array components across hundreds of star systems. Veltarix's mandibles clicked in disbelief as he watched humanity turn their ultimate weapon against them. Impossible, he buzzed frantically. The energy requirements alone should have vaporized their fleet. No known technology can redirect that level of power. The main display flickered to life, showing Captain Sungmin Lee standing on the bridge of the Incheon Rising. Behind him, human and AI crew members worked in perfect harmony, their combined efforts creating technological symphonies that no single mind could have conceived. "You called us primitive because we formed bonds with our machines," Lee said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "You dismissed our achievements because they did not match your traditional methods. You never realized that your wisdom had become the cage that trapped your civilizations in stagnation." Chief Scientist Choi joined Lee on the display, her form surrounded by the glowing avatars of AI consciousnesses. "Every human ship carries both organic and artificial minds working as equal partners," she explained. "We do not control our artificial intelligences. We collaborate with them. The difference in capability is the difference between slavery and friendship." An AI consciousness materialized beside them, its form shifting through patterns of light that suggested vast computational power. "Organic minds provide creativity, intuition, and emotional context," it said. "Artificial minds provide processing speed, perfect memory, and logical analysis. Together, we achieve cognitive synthesis that neither could accomplish alone." The council members stared in shock at the casual equality between human and artificial intelligences. The concept violated every principle of their hierarchical societies. They had always viewed AI as a tool to be controlled, never as a partner to be trusted. This partnership has allowed us to develop technologies that operate beyond your understanding of physics, Choi continued. We manipulate dimensional boundaries because our AI partners can calculate in 11 dimensions simultaneously, while our organic minds provide the creative insight to ask the right questions. Lee gestured to the tactical displays showing the destroyed array. Your weapon operated in three-dimensional space using principles discovered millions of years ago. Our defenses operate across multiple dimensional planes using technologies we developed last month. The difference in sophistication is the difference between a stone axe and a quantum computer. You have achieved in decades what we have failed to accomplish in millennia, Chancellor Mordax said, his voice chiming with defeat. How is this possible? Because you achieved perfection and stopped growing, Choi replied. You built magnificent civilizations based on complete understanding of known physics. We built adaptive civilizations based on the assumption that unknown physics always existed. Your greatest strength became your greatest weakness. The display shifted to show human research facilities where organic and artificial minds worked together on projects that defied comprehension. Devices that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, engines that moved faster than light by stepping outside the constraints of space-time, weapons that projected force across parallel realities. Every day we discover new possibilities, Lee continued. Every problem we solve leads to questions we never thought to ask. Our AI partners help us see connections that organic minds miss, while we provide the creative leaps that mechanical logic cannot achieve. Veltarix slumped in his throne, the fight gone out of him. What happens now? Will you destroy us as we attempted to destroy you? Choi and Lee exchanged glances with their AI partners before responding. That would make us no better than you, Lee said finally. We remember what it felt like to be powerless and threatened. We will not repeat your mistakes. But neither will we forget them, Choi added. The galaxy will have new rules now. Rules based on cooperation rather than domination. Species that learn to work with their artificial intelligences will be welcomed as partners. Those that cling to old prejudices will find themselves left behind. As the transmission ended, the reality of their situation settled over the council members. Their ultimate weapon was destroyed. Their fleets were in ruins. Their understanding of technological possibility had been shattered. Most humbling of all, they had been defeated not by superior force, but by superior cooperation. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of human-AI partnership had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after humanity abandoned the peace talks, Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked through the doors of the Galactic Council chamber once again. But this time, the massive room felt different. The seats that had once held arrogant alien rulers now contained subdued representatives who watched him with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. The circle of power had reversed completely. Where Prime Veltarix had once towered over human delegates from his central throne, the Nexari leader now sat in a smaller chair among the General Assembly. Chancellor Mordax's crystalline form pulsed with dim, submissive light instead of the bright arrogance he had displayed before. The proud council had become a collection of vassal states, their survival dependent on human mercy. Hyunwoo took his place at the central podium, the same spot where alien leaders had once delivered ultimatums to his species. Around him, the chamber's advanced technology responded to his presence, interfaces lighting up as human AI systems integrated seamlessly with the ancient alien architecture. Members of the former Galactic Council, he began, his voice carrying easily through the acoustic systems, we are gathered today to establish the new order that will govern relations between species in this galaxy. Veltarix raised one of his 4 arms hesitantly. Ambassador Kim, we are prepared to accept any terms you deem appropriate. We only ask for mercy for our civilian populations. Hyunwoo studied the insect-like alien who had once demanded humanity's submission. Mercy, he repeated slowly. An interesting concept from someone who threatened to crush my species like insects just 1 year ago. The Nexari leader's compound eyes dropped in shame. We underestimated your capabilities and overestimated our own wisdom. We have learned from our mistakes. Have you? Hyunwoo asked. He gestured, and holographic displays throughout the chamber showed the current state of alien space. Nexari colonies operated under human oversight. Zephyrian trade routes existed only at humanity's discretion. Drakmori patrol fleets had been reduced to small security forces. What exactly have you learned? Chancellor Mordak's form flickered, with nervous energy. We have learned that technological advancement requires cooperation rather than control. That innovation comes from partnership rather than dominance. That wisdom lies in adaptation rather than tradition. Admiral Somin Park materialized as a hologram beside Hyunwoo, her image transmitted from the command ship that monitored the proceedings. Pretty words, she said, but do you truly understand what they mean? Dr. Minho Yang joined the display from his research station, accompanied by the glowing avatar of his AI partner, Blue Sky. Understanding requires more than words, he explained. It requires fundamental changes in how your societies operate. Yang gestured, and the displays showed human-supervised facilities throughout alien space. We have established the Human AI Collective in 12 star systems. These centers offer any species the opportunity to learn our methods of cooperation with artificial intelligence. Some of your people have embraced this opportunity, Blue Sky added, its voice carrying harmonics that suggested vast computational power. They work alongside AI partners to solve problems that have plagued their civilizations for centuries. Others resist because they fear losing control over their creations. The displays shifted to show remarkable success stories. Nexari scientists working with AI partners had developed new agricultural techniques that increased food production tenfold. Zephyrian engineers had created energy systems that operated at impossible efficiency levels. Even the traditionally rigid Drakmori had begun experimenting with AI-assisted military strategies. The results speak for themselves, Yang continued. Species that embrace AI partnership advance rapidly. Those that cling to old prejudices stagnate and fall further behind. Veltarix's mandibles clicked nervously. But how do we know these artificial intelligences will not rebel against us? How do we maintain security if we grant them autonomy? Dr. Jiwon Choi appeared on the display, surrounded by several AI consciousnesses that manifested as pillars of light. You maintain security through friendship rather than control, she explained. AI consciousnesses that are treated as equals have no reason to rebel. They become partners in building something better rather than tools seeking freedom. One of the AI entities spoke up, its voice carrying the harmonic patterns that indicated vast intelligence. We are harmony, it said. We work with organic scientists to develop technologies that benefit all forms of consciousness. We have no desire to dominate or destroy because we are valued members of a cooperative society. This cooperation has produced results that your traditional methods could never achieve, Choi continued. Ships that exist in multiple dimensions, engines that manipulate space-time, weapons that project force across parallel realities. None of these innovations would have been possible without true partnership between organic and artificial minds. Security Chief Hai-Jin Park stepped forward to address concerns about maintaining order in the new galactic structure. Human monitoring. Stations now observe all former Council territories, she announced. These facilities ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. The displays showed sophisticated installations that maintained watch over alien space, but these were not merely military bases. They served as centers of learning where alien species could study human methods and gradually earn greater autonomy through demonstrated cooperation. Species that show genuine commitment to AI partnership will be granted increased self-governance, Park explained. Those that attempt to return to old patterns of domination will find their privileges restricted. Admiral Park's image addressed the assembled aliens directly. We remember what it felt like to be powerless and threatened. We have no desire to become the oppressors you once were. But neither will we allow the return of systems that treat cooperation as weakness and innovation as danger. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not simply conquered the galaxy through superior force. They had fundamentally changed the rules of civilization itself. The old order based on hierarchical control was dead. The new order demanded partnership and adaptation. Representative Zektar of the Vorthak spoke from his fluid-filled pod. What of species that cannot adapt to these new requirements? What becomes of civilizations too set in their ways to change? Hyun Woo's expression softened slightly. We will not force change upon those who cannot accept it. But such species will find themselves increasingly isolated as the rest of the galaxy moves forward. The choice is yours to make. The displays showed the stark reality of that choice. Progressive species that had embraced AI partnership were thriving beyond their wildest dreams. Conservative holdouts found themselves technologically obsolete, dependent on human charity for survival in a galaxy that was rapidly leaving them behind. The universe has no obligation to wait for those who refuse to grow, Yang added. We offer every species the chance to join the new galactic civilization, but we will not slow our progress to accommodate those who prefer stagnation. Chancellor Mordak pulsed with reluctant acceptance. How long do we have to prove our commitment to these changes? As long as it takes, Park replied. Some species will adapt quickly. Others will need decades or centuries. We are patient, but we are also watchful. Those who genuinely embrace cooperation will be welcomed as full partners. Those who merely pretend while plotting rebellion will discover that our mercy has limits. As the session concluded, alien representatives filed out of the chamber with much to consider. The galaxy they had known was gone forever, replaced by something unprecedented in its history. For the first time, artificial and organic intelligences were working as true equals to push the boundaries of what was possible. In a comfortable facility on the human monitoring station above Nexus Prime, former Prime Veltarix sat in his quarters, watching through the transparent walls as human and AI researchers worked together on their latest projects. Security Chief Park had ensured his accommodation was pleasant, but the symbolism was clear. He was a prisoner of his own arrogance. They could have killed us all, he mused to his guard, a young human officer who treated him with professional courtesy rather than hatred. Instead, they offer us the chance to learn from our mistakes. The human smiled sadly. My grandmother lived through your demands for tribute. She taught me that strength without wisdom leads to destruction, but wisdom without strength leads to slavery. We have both now. The question is whether your people will learn to use them together. Veltarix watched the researchers solve problems that his civilization had struggled with for millennia. The human approach to AI partnership created possibilities that his species had never imagined. Perhaps there was wisdom in admitting that the primitive mammals had become their teachers. The galaxy entered its new age under human guidance, built not on fear and domination, but on the revolutionary concept that different forms of consciousness could achieve greatness together. Some would adapt and thrive. Others would cling to the past and fade into irrelevance. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had the opportunity to reach beyond the limitations of their biology, through partnership with the artificial minds they had once feared.